Dear friends, today we step into a curious and enlightening understanding of human nature, the psychology of those who act poor when they are, in truth, rich. There is a divine intelligence working through all of life, and money, like every blessing, is a form of energy. How we respond to that energy reveals the deepest truths about our consciousness. Many of us have known someone who has wealth, abundance beyond measure, yet presents themselves as small, humble, and struggling. Why is this? The answer lies not in the circumstances, but in the inner beliefs, the invisible programs that run their lives. Poverty consciousness is not always a matter of money. It is a mindset, a story, a vibration. Even in abundance, if one carries the old belief that life is hard, that the world is unforgiving, that wealth is dangerous or immoral, they will unconsciously limit themselves. And so, they act poor, they dress modestly, they deny themselves pleasures, and they refuse to live in the freedom that true wealth can offer. This is not judgment, but a gentle recognition of the spiritual law at work. What you believe, you manifest. The soul knows that true wealth is more than coins in a purse. It is the joy of life, the freedom to express oneself, the confidence to step boldly into every opportunity. Those who act poor while being rich are often hiding from responsibility, from fear of criticism, or from the belief that to be truly wealthy is to be somehow wrong. Yet the universe is impartial and generous. It gives to all according to the measure of their faith and the openness of their mind. It is also important to recognize the play of humility and self-image. Some wear the mask of poverty to be safe, to avoid envy, or to cultivate admiration for their modesty. Others are still attached to old patterns of struggle, and they fear that living richly will make them arrogant or unlovable. But here is the truth. It is not the outward display that defines character, but the inward alignment. If one can live with integrity, generosity, and gratitude, wealth becomes a natural expression of spirit. The act of pretending to be poor is often a signal that one is not yet fully claiming their divine right to abundance. In the sacred law of life, we must honor abundance, not hide from it. We must recognize that wealth is simply an instrument, a tool for service, for joy, for creation. When a person acts poor despite being rich, they are denying themselves the flow of life that is their birthright. They are holding back, consciously or unconsciously, from expressing the full spectrum of their being. And this denial brings tension, anxiety, and a subtle dissatisfaction that even money cannot erase. Therefore, the remedy is clear: conscious alignment with the divine principle of prosperity. Speak the words of abundance, not fear. Think the thoughts of expansion, not limitation. Release the old stories of scarcity and embrace the freedom of your true self. Let your wealth be a reflection of your inner light, not a mask to hide behind. Let every coin, every gift, every opportunity flow through you as a testimony of the divine order. Remember, wealth is a state of mind first, then a manifestation. To act poor when rich is to disconnect from the very energy that life has offered you. And yet, the universe, in its infinite wisdom, allows us these lessons. For it is only by seeing where we limit ourselves that we can learn to expand, to claim joy without fear, and to become luminous in our expression of abundance. Let each of us today make a vow, not of vanity but of conscious power, to live openly, generously, and joyfully, to let our abundance shine forth, not to boast, but to affirm that life is rich, that we are worthy, and that every blessing is a divine gift meant to be used with gratitude and love. You see, the outer world is but a mirror of the inner world. When we release the need to act poor, when we embrace the fullness of our prosperity, we not only uplift ourselves, we inspire all who behold us. To remember that wealth is not a secret, it is a song, a divine melody of life, meant to be played freely, beautifully, and without hesitation. Wealth, as the universe truly understands it, is far more than the accumulation of coins, bills, or assets. It is a vibration, a consciousness, a state of mind that precedes the physical manifestation of abundance. Before the first dollar is ever earned, before the first opportunity arises, the seed of wealth must be planted in the mind, nurtured with faith, and aligned with the spiritual laws that govern life. The mind is the crucible in which all experiences are forged, and it is through thought, belief, and inner attitude that the outer world responds. To consider wealth only as money is to limit oneself to a shadow of the truth. For the essence of abundance is not in the tangible form, but in the invisible flow of energy that informs reality. When a person claims wealth as a state of mind, they recognize that money, property, possessions, and comfort are but reflections of the consciousness within. The mind that is open, generous, and expansive will attract opportunities, ideas, and resources that align with that consciousness. Conversely, a mind closed by fear, scarcity, or limitation will find that opportunities elude it, that money slips through fingers, and that no accumulation ever feels sufficient. This is because the outer world responds to inner vibration. It is not the circumstances had to find wealth, but the mental state that welcomes it. The person who truly understands this principle does not worry over bank balances, investments, or debts, for they know that the invisible law of life governs all conditions. They do not measure success by the quantity of material things, but by the freedom, peace, and joy that come from living in harmony with the abundance that already exists in the universe. Wealth in mind is a conscious choice, a deliberate recognition that there is enough for everyone and that abundance is not a zero-sum game. The person who embraces this does not envy, hoard, or clutch possessions tightly, for they know that security is not in the object, but in the inner connection with the limitless supply of life. Every thought of fear or limitation is a blockage in the mental current that carries prosperity. Every word of gratitude, generosity, and expectation is a channel through which abundance flows unhindered. One who lives in the awareness of wealth in mind does not react to scarcity, does not compete out of desperation, and does not make decisions from a place of lack. Instead, they act from a place of confidence, faith, and creative vision, knowing that the universe is always supplying the right circumstances at the right time. It is also essential to understand that the mind does not differentiate between what is imagined and what is real. It responds to belief and expectation. Therefore, if a person constantly dwells upon bills, debt, and limitation, the mind organizes life in accordance with that focus. Conversely, if a person envisions abundance, speaks words of prosperity, and feels gratitude for what is already present, the mind organizes circumstances to match that inner reality. This is not merely wishful thinking, but a spiritual principle as immutable as the law of gravity. Wealth begins with thought, is fortified with feeling, and is realized through action inspired by faith. One cannot cultivate a mindset of abundance while simultaneously engaging in constant worry, complaint, or fear, for these are the seeds of poverty consciousness. To understand wealth as a state of mind is to recognize that money is a tool, a servant of higher purpose, rather than a master to be feared or idolized. True wealth manifests as confidence, courage, and the freedom to make choices in alignment with one's higher calling. It is a consciousness that does not depend upon external approval, social comparison, or accumulation for its validation. The rich mind is generous, for it knows that giving opens the channel to receive. It is courageous, for it knows that risk is a natural companion of growth. It is patient, for it understands that the unfolding of prosperity follows divine timing rather than human urgency. Every thought, every word, every feeling either strengthens or weakens this internal state of wealth. A mind that dwells on limitation draws limitation, while a mind that dwells on possibility, expansion, and faith draws opportunities that might seem miraculous to the observer. One who truly understands this law does not chase money, does not cling to fortune, and does not become enslaved by possessions, for they recognize that these are but the outer expression of an inner reality. The mind is the magnet, and life is the manifestation. Wealth in mind is also the recognition that there is enough for all, that the universe is infinitely generous, and that fear, envy, or competition only constrict the flow of abundance. To act with generosity, speak words of prosperity, and maintain an attitude of gratitude is to align oneself with the infinite reservoir of life. Each decision, each action, each investment should be guided not merely by the desire for gain, but by the awareness of this larger law. The person who understands wealth as a mental state does not panic when circumstances fluctuate, for they know that the mind is the foundation of reality, and that outer conditions are fluid and responsive. They see opportunity where others see obstacles, solutions where others see problems, and possibilities where others see limits. Wealth, in this sense, is a form of inner sovereignty, a mastery of thought and feeling that ensures that life will reflect the abundance one has already claimed within. Those who act poor when they are rich are often neglecting this fundamental truth. They may possess money, assets, or comfort, yet their inner thoughts remain tethered to scarcity, fear, and limb. No accumulation of coins can override the vibration of the mind, for it is the inner current that directs the flow of outer abundance. Therefore, to cultivate true wealth, one must first cleanse the mind of negative beliefs, release fear-based thoughts, and nurture an unshakable faith in the sufficiency of life. Words, thoughts, and feelings are instruments of creation, and they must be wielded with awareness. A declaration of abundance spoken with conviction carries power. A vision of prosperity held with feeling shapes reality, and a mind attuned to wealth attracts circumstances, people, and opportunities that mirror that inner state. Money is merely the visible representation of this inner reality, and when one understands this, one no longer serves money, but allows money to serve the higher purpose of life. Wealth in mind is freedom. It is courage. It is joy. It is the understanding that life is generous, that the universe is an abundant partner, and that every individual has the right to claim this divine flow. This principle is universal and timeless. It transcends occupation, status, and circumstance, for the mind is the soil in which the garden of life grows, and thought is the seed from which all harvest springs. Therefore, let each person examine their beliefs, their expectations, and their habitual ways of thinking about money. Let them choose to cultivate thoughts of abundance, to speak words of faith, and to feel gratitude for the richness already present. By doing so, they align with the natural law that governs prosperity, and the world responds accordingly. Wealth is first a mental state, a consciousness of sufficiency, a recognition of life's generosity. When this state is established, money, opportunities, success, and comfort follow naturally. There is no need to struggle, to compete, or to hoard, for the mind that knows abundance draws all things necessary. One's thoughts, words, and feelings are the invisible architects of destiny, and by consciously directing them toward prosperity, one ensures that the outer world mirrors the inner reality. The richness of life, the flow of resources, the comfort of freedom, and the joy of living are all reflections of this inner state of wealth. To know this is to command the law of life, to live in harmony with divine order, and to experience the blessings of abundance in every area of existence. Many people who possess wealth still choose to act poor, and in doing so, they reveal the inner landscape of their consciousness. This behavior is rarely random. It is a reflection of fear, old ingrained beliefs, or a subtle denial of the abundance that the universe has placed in their lives. The human mind is programmed over years, even decades, by culture, family, and personal experience. From early childhood, messages are absorbed about money, scarcity, and what it means to be wealthy. Words like money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or you can't be spiritual and wealthy lodge deeply in the subconscious mind. These beliefs are powerful, often more powerful than the conscious desire for abundance, and they silently guide behavior, choices, and self-expression. Even when a person's bank account, assets, and opportunities show a clear sign of prosperity, these subconscious beliefs can create a pattern of acting poor. It manifests in subtle ways, hiding one's success, denying oneself pleasures, undervaluing personal contributions, or maintaining a lifestyle that is deliberately modest beyond what is necessary. Fear is the common thread in these behaviors. Fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of losing what has been acquired, or fear of being seen as arrogant or unworthy. Fear constricts the flow of energy, causing people to hold back, to operate in secrecy, or to avoid openly expressing their success. In truth, the universe does not punish wealth, nor does it shame those who embrace it. These fears are self-imposed limitations, echoes of old programs that no longer serve the individual's highest good. Denial of abundance also arises from a mistaken belief that wealth is inherently corrupting, that to be rich is to compromise moral or spiritual integrity. This is a misconception, for money is a neutral tool, a form of energy that can be used for creation, service, and joy. It is only the consciousness behind it that colors its expression. Those who act poor while rich often cling to a self-image of humility or moral superiority, believing that simplicity or frugality elevates them spiritually. While moderation and stewardship are virtuous, when they mask fear, scarcity, or avoidance, they become a form of self-denial. Old beliefs rooted in struggle can also lead to acting poor. If a person has spent years in hardship, whether financial or emotional, the memory of struggle imprints deeply on the subconscious. Even when life changes and abundance arrives, the mind continues to operate from the memory of scarcity. It is as if the soul remembers the lessons of difficulty and refuses to allow comfort to feel safe. The result is often a paradox. Wealth exists, yet the individual lives as if it does not, limiting experiences, undervaluing themselves, and maintaining behaviors learned in poverty. This pattern also extends to identity. Many people tie their sense of self to struggle or to a humble persona. Acting poor becomes a way of preserving this identity, avoiding change, and maintaining a familiar, albeit limiting, self-concept. Change can feel threatening because it requires a new alignment of thought, feeling, and action. To embrace abundance fully is to step into a larger identity, to think differently, feel differently, and act differently in the world. Denying abundance allows the mind to avoid this transformation, even at the cost of joy and freedom. Social influences play a role as well. Society often holds conflicting messages about wealth, success, and morality. To be rich can provoke envy, suspicion, or resentment from others. Acting poor can be a strategy to avoid these social pressures, to appear modest, and to maintain harmony. While understandable, this behavior still restricts the individual's ability to live fully in the abundance that has been granted. Acting poor can also mask insecurity. Deep down, a person may feel unworthy of wealth or fear that they have not earned it. These feelings generate anxiety, guilt, and hesitation, prompting behaviors that diminish the outward expression of abundance. Generosity may be withheld, opportunities avoided, and self-expression muted. In reality, the universe does not demand perfection before granting prosperity. It responds to belief, expectation, and alignment. By denying abundance, one limits the flow and obstructs the natural expression of life's generosity. Awareness is the first step toward breaking this pattern. Recognizing that acting poor is not a reflection of reality but a mirror of inner beliefs allows one to take conscious action. One must examine the fears, old programs, and beliefs that drive these behaviors and consciously release them. Words and thoughts are powerful instruments in this process. Affirmations of worthiness, abundance, and alignment with divine prosperity help reprogram the subconscious mind. Visualization, gratitude, and the conscious acknowledgement of blessings further strengthen this realignment. Acting rich in consciousness, thinking, speaking, and feeling. Inji abundance prepares the individual for the natural flow of wealth in every aspect of life. The inner acceptance of abundance also requires courage. To step into prosperity openly is to risk judgment, misunderstanding, or envy, yet the courageous mind knows that these external reactions are reflections of others' consciousness, not a limitation on one's own. True abundance is not diminished by the perception of others. It expands as the mind opens to its rightful expression. Those who act poor while rich often miss the joy and freedom that their wealth can bring. They may limit travel, experiences, and creative endeavors, fearing extravagance or waste. They may avoid investing in themselves, in personal growth, or in opportunities that would expand their capacity to serve and enjoy life. Every act of self-denial is an act of resistance against the natural flow of prosperity. To break free, one must align the mind with the understanding that wealth is an instrument for higher purposes. It is a tool for service, creativity, and joy. It does not corrupt the spirit. It enhances it when guided by integrity, wisdom, and gratitude. In this alignment, acting poor becomes unnecessary, for the individual no longer fears abundance, judgment, or scarcity. They no longer hide or deny their success. Instead, they express it with grace, confidence, and generosity. The act of living richly, in every sense of the word, becomes a spiritual practice. Each choice, each thought, and each action is informed by the awareness that the universe is endlessly abundant, that life is meant to be lived fully, and that denying one's own prosperity is to deny the divine flow. Old beliefs, fear, and denial are merely shadows that recede when the light of consciousness shines upon them. As awareness deepens, the mind begins to operate from a new center, one that is aligned with the limitless possibilities of life. In this state, abundance is no longer a secret, a source of guilt, or a cause for concealment. It is a natural expression of being, a reflection of inner harmony, and a channel through which blessings flow to oneself and to others. Acting poor while rich is a habit of the past, a reflection of fear-based programming, and a mask that no longer serves the conscious individual. By releasing these patterns, by embracing courage, gratitude, and alignment with abundance, one allows life to mirror the wealth already present within. This understanding transforms the way a person interacts with money, possessions, and opportunities. Wealth becomes not a pursuit, but a natural state of being. It is the conscious expression of alignment with universal law, the recognition that fear, scarcity, and old beliefs are illusions that can be replaced with faith, generosity, and joy. The mind that knows this principle attracts circumstances, people, and experiences that resonate with abundance. Acting poor becomes unnecessary because the inner truth has been claimed, and the outer world follows accordingly. Wealth in thought, feeling, and consciousness is the foundation upon which all material and spiritual prosperity is built. And to act poor when rich is to deny this foundational truth. True prosperity is not measured solely by the size of one's bank account, the possessions one holds, or the titles one carries. It is a living force, a conscious expression of the alignment between human will and divine law, a manifestation of gratitude, generosity, and harmony with the natural flow of life. The individual who understands this principle knows that wealth, in its highest and most enduring form, is an energy that circulates freely, a river that cannot be dammed without consequence, and a reflection of the inner state of consciousness. Gratitude is the cornerstone of this flow. To be truly prosperous is to recognize the blessings that are already present, to give thanks for the simplest things as well as the grandest, and to cultivate a mental habit of acknowledgement rather than complaint. When the mind dwells in appreciation, it vibrates on a frequency that attracts more of what is celebrated. It is the law of life that energy responds to attention, and gratitude is the most powerful form of attention. Each expression of thanks, whether spoken aloud, written, or felt within, reinforces the awareness that life is abundant, that the universe is generous, and that one is a worthy recipient of all good things. Prosperity is not merely the act of receiving, but the conscious participation in the circulation of blessings. Generosity is the outward manifestation of this inner abundance. Those who hoard, withhold, or fear loss are limited in their experience of prosperity, for energy thrives in movement. By sharing resources, time, wisdom, and kindness, a person opens channels for greater abundance to flow in return. Generosity is not an obligation, nor is it a strategy. It is a recognition of the sacred law that giving and receiving are inseparable. When wealth is offered freely and joyfully, the universe responds with greater provision, often in ways that surpass expectation. This is because the act of giving is itself a declaration of faith. Faith that life is sufficient, faith that one's needs will be met, and faith that abundance is not a limited commodity, but a renewable energy that multiplies when shared. Alignment with divine flow is the third and equally essential aspect of true prosperity. The universe operates according to a natural order, a rhythm that is both intelligent and benevolent. Those who resist this flow through fear, greed, impatience, or judgment create friction, limitation, and tension in their lives. Conversely, those who attune themselves to this law, who act in harmony with its principles, experience effortless provision, opportunities that seem serendipitous, and a sense of peace and fulfillment that money alone cannot confer. Alignment begins with awareness, observing how thoughts, words, and actions resonate with higher principles. It involves choosing integrity over convenience, service over selfishness, and love over fear. A person in alignment does not chase wealth, they attract it by living in accordance with universal law, by moving in rhythm with life's natural currents rather than resisting or manipulating them. Gratitude, generosity, and alignment are interdependent. One without the others creates imbalance. Gratitude without generosity becomes self-centered acknowledgement that does not influence the world. Generosity without gratitude can lead to depletion or resentment, as the act of giving lacks a joyful or purposeful connection. Alignment without both gratitude and generosity may produce success that feels empty or disconnected, as it lacks the heart-centered engagement that transforms provision into true prosperity. The person who embodies all three qualities radiates an energy that draws wealth in its most holistic sense: material, emotional, spiritual, and relational. Prosperity, when fully understood, is a state of flow. It is the recognition that wealth is a living current that circulates through consciousness and circumstance, and that resistance, fear, or attachment disrupts this movement. Each thought of lack, each judgment about deserving or unworthiness, and each act of selfish hoarding constricts the flow and limits the fullness of life that is intended for every individual. By contrast, each thought of appreciation, each act of generosity, and each alignment with universal principle opens the channels for abundance to pour freely. This understanding also transforms one's perception of obstacles and challenges. Rather than viewing difficulties as threats or limitations, the prosperous mind sees them as opportunities to exercise faith, patience, discernment, and creative problem-solving. Challenges become teachers, refining the ability to maintain gratitude, to give generously even when circumstances seem limited, and to remain aligned with the divine flow despite outer appearances. In this way, prosperity is not contingent on circumstance, but on conscious choice and internal harmony. Words are another essential instrument in the cultivation of true prosperity. Every statement, every declaration, every conversation carries energy that either aligns with abundance or detracts from it. Speaking words of gratitude, affirmation, and faith strengthens the channels of flow, while complaining, criticizing, or dwelling on lack creates blockage. The conscious use of language to affirm abundance is a spiritual practice that reinforces the mind's alignment with wealth. Furthermore, the quality of thought shapes the quality of life. Prosperous consciousness is characterized by clarity, focus, optimism, and trust in the unseen law that governs all things. It does not waver in the face of apparent scarcity, nor does it become enslaved by anxiety, comparison, or fear. Instead, it operates from the understanding that life's abundance is infinite. That there is more than enough for all, and that each individual's role is to receive, circulate, and express this abundance with joy and integrity. The practice of generosity is not limited to material wealth. Time, attention, wisdom, encouragement, and love are all forms of currency that circulate within the economy of life. By sharing these freely, one cultivates a holistic form of prosperity that enriches both giver and receiver. Gratitude amplifies these acts, as the joyful recognition of blessings multiplies their effect. When actions are guided by alignment with divine flow, generosity becomes effortless, natural, and sustainable. It is an expression of inner abundance, rather than a strategy to gain recognition or favor. True prosperity also manifests in the ability to make choices that reflect one's highest values. It allows one to invest in personal growth, relationships, creativity, and service without hesitation or guilt. It is not measured solely by financial accumulation, but by the richness of life experiences, the depth of connection, and the fulfillment of one's purpose. The alignment of mind, heart, and spirit with universal principles ensures that wealth is never a source of anxiety or limitation, but a channel for expression, joy, and contribution. This state of consciousness also fosters resilience. When challenges arise, the prosperous mind does not panic or retreat. Gratitude reminds the individual of the resources already present. Generosity maintains the flow of energy, even in apparent scarcity. Alignment with divine law provides trust that every circumstance is part of a larger, benevolent plan. Together, these qualities create an inner stability that allows one to navigate life with confidence, grace, and courage. Ultimately, the principle of true prosperity is the understanding that abundance is a reflection of consciousness. money, possessions, and comfort are merely symbols of this deeper reality. The individual who cultivates gratitude, expresses generosity, and aligns with the divine flow experiences wealth in its fullest sense, as a dynamic, living, and joyful force that permeates every aspect of life. This perspective transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the mundane into the sacred, and the accumulation of resources into the celebration of life itself. Prosperity is thus not a goal to be chased, but a state to be embraced, a rhythm to be followed, and a law to be honored. It is a living practice, a conscious way of being, and a testament to the alignment between human desire and divine order. Every act of gratitude, every expression of generosity, and every moment of alignment strengthens the connection with the infinite supply of life. By embodying these principles, one becomes a conduit for abundance, allowing it to flow naturally, effortlessly, and beautifully, touching every aspect of existence and extending its blessings to all who are encountered.